Hi, I want to talk to you about a short experience I had called the healing in my right shoulder. So it was back in the early 1990s, and I was living down in Florida, and I was hitting a lot of golf balls. And down in the Miami area, I was trying to get on make my way on the PGA Tour, and I was in my early 20s, and my right shoulder started getting sore. And playing golf pretty much since I was 11. um, Never really had any issues with my shoulder or anything. So of course, I went to um, a chiropractor, and who I went occasionally and got adjustments on my back and stuff. And he looked at it and stuff, and so he decided to give me a cortisone shot. And I didn't know much about cortisone shots. So my friends have got it through football and other sports, but I never got any shots. I said, okay, shoot it up. And then a couple of days later, my arm collapsed. So I couldn't pick up my right arm. If you say there's no connection from my brain to if I try to lift my arm up, it was like nothing, no connection. And then it was tingling all down my arm. So I went back to the chiropractor, and he says, I'm going to send you to I believe it was a neurologist. I can't remember the names of some of these doctors. And apparently they were friends, and they talked on the phone for a little bit. And so he set me up for an appointment on Sunday morning in his office, which is kind of weird. And there was nobody in there. So I go in, and he takes me in this back room and on the table, and he put these wires all over my back, my arms. And then he finally looked at me and he said, I know what's wrong with you. And I said, okay, what is it? Remember, I couldn't lift my arm up or nothing. And on top of that, my muscles were deteriorating within days, and I worked out and, tried to stay in shape, especially, try to get on the PGA Tour. And I'd always worked out. And my muscles, I mean, it was really started disappearing. And he said, you have a very rare viral infection in your blood, and that's what ate away your muscle tissue. I said, bullshit. There ain't nothing wrong with my blood. I said, it's that needle that the chiropractor shot up in my arm. I said, you're nuts. There ain't nothing wrong with my blood. And so I started grabbing these things and pulling them off me, and I jumped off that table. And I said, you know what? I said, the same God who made this body will heal this body. And so I left. So next morning, I made an appointment. First thing I want to do is get my blood checked. A very rare viral infection in my blood. So blood results came back a day or two later. And of course, there was nothing wrong. I had clean blood. And so I got a hold of a lawyer, and who was a friend of my dad's, and so he started this case. And so in the meantime, I had gone to another doctor, and they sent me to do an MRI. And I remember going into that little, back in the early 90s, I don't know how it is now, it's the only MRI I've ever had. Went into this tunnel, laying back, and I was going to be in there for a while, hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. And I asked because I was listening to Bible tapes at the time, and I said, can I listen? No, you can't do nothing. You have no electronics. And I was laying in that thing just praying, oh God, please help me, Jesus, help me, Jesus. And still I couldn't pick up my right arm. Don't know what's wrong with it. But I could still drive. I mean, I could lift up and hold it, but it was fatigue, so I had to drive with my left arm. And but the thing of what, I could still hit golf balls. It didn't affect my right side at all, even though I could pick my arm up. So MRI results came back. I remember it was a day or two, and then they said I had actually had a herniated disc, C4, C3, somewhere, one of those C's, a couple C's or something. And so they said, really the only thing you can do is therapy. So I started with a physical therapist. And I remember trying to walk my fingers up. The first exercise they had me do was walk my fingers up the wall. And if I tried to hold it, or it would just drop. So I had to kind of help it. And, you know, again, I didn't know much about healing, but I started seeking more about healing at the time, and the Lord's promises on healing. And so went through therapy, and right about that time was when Hurricane Andrew started to come through down in the Fort Lauderdale area. And it actually hit down in Dade County, Miami. So before that, while I'm doing therapy, my brother was involved with this church, and he had a softball league. And I couldn't even pick my arm up or nothing. It was getting a little bit stronger, but still. He said, we need an extra player to play softball. I said, man, but I could swing a golf club, so I could actually swing a baseball bat, kind of like a golf club. And so I joined the church softball league, and get a few hits to run around them bases, and that arm couldn't move much. It was kind of funny, but I just stayed in there and stuck with the Lord, and stayed in faith and in healing. And so before Hurricane Andrew hit, maybe 2-3 months before that, in the middle of the night, the Lord got me up, and I walked out into the living room, and I just felt the presence of the Lord so strong. And he says, you're going back home. You're going to Beckley. And I had these thoughts like, how am I going to organize all this? And the only people that lived in Beckley, West Virginia, was my grandparents. And I heard the voice again, as an audible voice. I actually heard the voice. You're going back home. You're going to Beckley. And so that was before Hurricane Andrew. So I started working things out, making calls in the middle of my shoulder, trying to get better, and being on a softball church league, and still being able to practice and hit golf balls. So worked all that out, and Hurricane Andrew came through, and ended up moving back to Beckley. And so when I moved back, I actually stayed with my grandparents, because I was still trying to, it's funny, trying to get on the PGA Tour, moving out of South Florida and moving up to the mountains of West Virginia. It was a cold winter up there too, and practicing indoors. But I stayed with my grandparents, and the lawyer had called me, and he says, you know, we have a pretty good case. And he says, how do you want to proceed? And I said, you know what? And I heard that voice again, drop it. The Lord took care of my shoulder. And don't be trying to sue and get money out of it. It was healed, or process of getting better. I knew it. And I had a bulldog faith. The Lord was going to take care of it, and I was still doing the therapy, and it was getting stronger. And I said, you know what? And I gave him the testimony. I said, the Lord's healed this. Drop it. Are you sure you can get this? You can get that? No, I'm not interested. The Lord took care of it. I knew if I went down that path, I probably would have had issues later, and I wasn't going to seek any of that stuff, you know, through the world, and I was going to take the Lord's path. And so I get to spend some time with my grandparents, and before they passed away, which was really well-needed time, and it was a good time of rest, because they lived in the back in the backwoods in West Virginia, and end up driving an hour away each day to a golf course that I worked at. Even though it was winter time, I still got a place to practice indoors. So, but yeah, then the Lord took care of all that, and stayed up in West Virginia for 17 years, and that's when I received the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and that was in a previous video, and how all that worked out. And never had any problems with right shoulder ever since. So I hope this could be a help, and have a great day.